Jerry has got a chimney cap that needs repair, and we don't know a whole lot about how that part is assembled, but we're going to assume that it is assembled similar to the brown. And basically what has happened is
Top's been pounded on.
the top is sitting on top of 4 posts, and we believe that the design of the post is such that they are shaped like a piece of unistrut, where they've got a tab that extends upward that fits up inside the cap. And typically on the browns anyway, if you're looking at a plan view, they've got the 4 slots that these supports come up through. That tab is soldered down to the interior panel of the chimney cap. And what we're going to do is to loosen this up by applying heat at the same time, pushing up on the cap. And the expectation is that this tab will release from the solder that's holding it, and it will straighten up and allow the cap to lift up.
So Scott, those tabs are in and then bent over and folded and soldered down? Right?
Correct. When they assembled these lamps, the interior cap, or the bottom panel of the cap, is installed where these tabs are bent over and soldered. The finished cap is installed on top of that and rolled onto it. And because we don't have the ability to peel this back off without wasting this part, we're going to try to heat these 4 posts 2 at a time and push it up off of those tabs. And if everything goes right, these tabs will not only straighten up, but we won't wind up breaking them off. They're fairly fragile.
Which part are you taking off? You're taking the whole top off?
The very top.
It's the chimney cap. Typically, these supports extend down inside the chimney quite a way. They're part of another component, so it's really not necessarily out of the question to cut those off and then replace them, but that's a whole lot of work. And when you go to put it back together, because they'd have to be soldered in place, it complicates a reassembly. So that said, Jerry, I'm going to recommend that we put the heat to it.
Okay.
Because of the possibility that we have a heat transfer that might get down into this part. This being a 100-year-old piece, I'm a little bit concerned about heating up anything that I don't absolutely have to. So if I can put a wetted blanket down below to prevent that, ounce of prevention, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go after a piece of wood to lift up on this. We're going to, once this releases, we're looking to put pressure underneath the cap and raise up on it, but we don't want to scuff up the brass work. You know, a nice sturdy item like this file here would probably do the job, but let's do it careful. We're going to use this map gas torch on this as well, because as demonstrated with the other part, we just getting heat but not enough heat. I think this is going to take a fair amount. What do you think? You want to hit it, or you want me to hit
No,
it?
you do that. I'll do the prying, I guess.
Okay. You want to use that one or this one?
You want to go ahead and stick it in, or wait till
Yeah, let me hit that. Let me do the heat first.
solder out of it. Get back to the other side.
Yep. We're taking it nice and easy on this. Like I said, we don't want those little tabs to break off, or it just makes it a booger to put back together. Let me put the heat in there first here.
Get it loose.
All right, I see what's going on with it. The tabs are going up inside the cap the way the browns do, but they're going in the opposite direction. So instead of being splayed over to the outside, they're splayed to the inside, which doesn't really make any difference to us for what we're doing. I think we're going to go ahead and give it another jack. Well, one of the tabs broke. Give it up.
I wouldn't worry about it either. That's what problem.
All right, can I pass this around?
Yeah.
Okay, so this cap that we just took off, Jerry's interest is to be able to recover this cap in it, and if we had this interior plate removed, we could certainly do that. Because the interior plate is really in fairly good condition. That is, we could put 4 new slots in this thing and theoretically use it. It's a shame to go ahead and cut that out, but 2 things we could do. We could go ahead and destroy the interior liner and make a new one. That is, we could use a piece of copper or brass 10 gauge wire with a plate of this 20 thousandths thick brass on top of it, and we could make ourselves a plate. Take a little bit of time, but peeling this out of here enables us to get to these damages. And my guess is that I don't see any fractures in this cap. There's no reason that I wouldn't go ahead and save it. The edges are a little ratty, but I would think that we could put some steel wire in there and form that back to the point where it didn't look too butt ugly.
But you gotta get it just right.
No, I think that's part of the electrical assembly. I think that's an electrical part. You would have a very generous chimney opening there with using this for kerosene. So what we're doing here is taking the electrical retrofit that was installed inside your house.
Surprise, surprise. Put all that crap in there. That's what I found inside the light. What we're gonna do is he's taking the liner out of that cap. And the cap has a bunch of dents and stuff in it.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I wanted to learn
About the
was
fourth person
how
we've
do you
seen.
take something with those kind of dents in it and
First
make it
person.
look like what he's
Because
done?
we don't
back
want to do
there?
it.
That's what I want to learn how to do.
So I brought some forming tools with me, and because I'm a do-it-yourselfer, I go looking for garbage like this in my scrap pile in my garage. And so instead of going out and buying or making a forming tool,
There's pictures.
I look for something I've already got. And what do you know? I've got this.
I don't want to.
I've got this fine leftover from an ancient socket kit that just happens to have this real nice radius top right here. And this is my #1 favorite mandrel for brass work. And you can see, based on this shiny surface, it's gotten lots of use. So I had asked the good folks here at the museum to let us use this area of the museum for the vise that we've got here. Okay, and Jerry is pulling the inner liner out so that the underside of the brass piece is exposed. And we're going to tap that guy into submission using a plastic hammer. Sir?
What do you do to guarantee that it's not gonna split when you set that back? You putting any heat on it or anything, or you just bend the coal,
The
brass?
dents out of the brass?
No, when you're bending the brass back to take it out.
Oh,
Bending
oh,
the lip, to take the liner out.
Yeah.
oh, no, he's peeling the liner out from the inside. So the lip is intact still.
Oh, okay.
You doing that good, Jerry?
It's a
Is
little
it
more-
fussing?
It's a little more
I
involved.
think you got some solder on or something.
I'm getting it.
Yeah, don't leave the lip intact and
All right, so it put up a fight, but clean living prevailed, and now we've got the cap off.
Okay. And then roll it back over.
We're going to do an area of about 25% of the global portion of this cap. There's a lot of work in renovating this, not the least of which is the perimeter edge. It's kind of rippled. Looks like somebody went at this before Jerry got this part, because it's been pretty aggressively chewed on. Just for the record, we didn't do that here, but the fix for that would be to put a steel mandrel, a piece of steel wire inside there to get the form.
Shape back.
Bring that shape back, exactly. So that said, I'm just going to run a quickie test here to find out how much it's going to take to drop this deformed area back down.
Now, why do you use a plastic hammer and not like a steel hammer?
Because two reasons: we don't want to scuff the brass, and as you're peening against this stuff, you're reducing the wall thickness of it. Ideally, we have 20 thousandths. We started with 20 thousandths over here, and we want as close to 20 thousandths before we start doing our smoothing and polishing, because we're going to do nothing but loose surface here.
Would a nylon hammer work just as well as
It
a
would.
plastic?
It would. You,
Well, not on leather, whatever.
a wooden dowel.
Okay. wood.
Now, are you actually, you said those dents were out and not in.
Yeah,
Are you actually trying to compress the brass?
Actually, I'm trying to scoop this bulge, this dent, as close to the parent material on either side of it as possible.
So you're trying to compress the dent down?
Trying to encourage it to fold back down where it was.
Okay.
Is that gonna change your outside circumference a little bit too?
Because we're making this pretty much from scratch, I don't think it would matter. I doubt it would,
Okay.
but I don't see enough work in this that we're going to be aggressively thinning this metal out. If we're not thinning the metal out, we're not redistributing it anywhere. Is my thinking. Let me give it a couple of knocks here. Got a couple of low spots in here. Those those are actually the easy ones. I find areas where the metal has been raised up more difficult to repair because you're looking for bringing that up to some sort of a smooth plane, and when you tap down on the metal, it's less under control. The distribution of the metal is anybody's guess. Ultimately, we don't want to fold the metal back and forth while we're working it because we're doing two things. We're fatiguing it, and we're also thinning it by doing so. So I don't guess the camera's picking this up, but these dents are floating right out. This is going to look pretty nice.
I think it's picking it up real well.
My guess is that with this sort of an assortment of tools at my disposal and repairing a part like this, I'd probably spend 2 or 3 hours on it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but a pro could probably come in here and smoke me doing that. But you know, somebody could put 15 minutes into this and restore a part like this. They're definitely worthy of commendation. Tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and hook up this buffer because I really want to see what's going on with my surface. That is, if I've got a nice shiny polished surface and I put force underneath it, I can see where that forming tool is under the brass as I move it. Let's see.
Heat and juice.
We've got our $30 Harbor Freight buffer here. This is 9 years old. I paid $30 for it, and you can't beat this with a stick.
So you're not working it to death anyway.
Well, it's on Model T number 3 and brass car number 4. So it's been a trooper. If you've used this stuff before, you're familiar with the Rouge. I use 2 different grits of this. This is Harbor Freight cheap stuff also. These cost, I don't know, $3 or something. They have a fairly aggressive grit that comes in the brown container here that's good for rough cut. It actually puts a pretty good looking polish down, but for a preliminary like this is my weapon of choice. And you start your buffer up, give it a good sloppy coating of that. And this is a dirty machine, absolutely dirty machine. It throws stuff everywhere, and if you're not hanging on to the part, it throws those too.
It's gone.
I'm operating this at home. I put a quilt underneath it or a piece of carpet underneath it. If you're standing at this thing and operating it for a couple hours at a time, you're going to get tired. I mean, this dude will wear your hands out, and myself, after a while, I get sloppy with it, and that's when the buffer wins and the part goes flying. Now this perimeter ring on here has got a lot of dent work in it that's going to be needing to be worked on. We're not focused on that right now. We're just doing this globe area.
You using the same buffer on?
You can see that
parts
that's
have
taken quite a bit of that down already. I'm going to smooth it out just a little bit more, and then we're going to put the final pass on here with a little bit of abrasive, and then polish it.
Now, does this take any of the dents out?
This takes very minor denting out, very, very minor denting. If you're talking in terms of thousands, less than 5 thousandths, this machine is not going to manage anything heavier than that.
Is it removing brass, or is it just?
It is.
Thinning it.
Yep.
Hey, Scott, hold that right up at the camera, would you, the piece you just did?
And again, this is a little bit rough. Before we put an emery paper pass on this, we're going to knock this down a little bit more. I just wanted to get a better idea what this surface looked like with all that grit gone. Okay?
So you're actually, when you take something like that and get as much of the dents out as you can to make it mirror smooth, you're actually taking some of the brass off.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you've ever seen automobile body work on an aluminum body automobile, the owners of these cars are absolutely paranoid about taking them out and running them again, because the work that is done on them amounts to just what we're doing here. They get the dents as flat as they possibly can, and then they come back and rasp it. So you are absolutely taking material off. This part started out as about 20 thousandths thick, and I'm going to say we could take 5 thousandths off of that surface without missing it. And any more than that, you know, I'm sure that I've taken 10 off of parts that I've restored. If it's bad and that's what you got to do, that's what you do. But the risk is that when you get to the point of no return, you're gonna see what looks like a little dent start to appear.
It's a hole.
That's a hole with about 1,000th laying on top of it. So let me have another go at this, and let's put some emery paper to this. When you're tapping on this with this hammer, you probably wonder, how do you know whether you got your mandrel up underneath that? You know, how do you know what you're beating on? It's a firm thump when you're coming down on top of that mandrel, and if it's not, it's got that hollow sound. That tells you, hey, you're a little bit off your mark. Better get your center back, find out where it is. And there it is. No, it takes nothing. It takes absolutely nothing. I was saying that you could do this with a wooden dowel. Piece of wooden dowel. Actually, put enough force on this to drop that brass. Maybe a little more force.
Now, when you're doing that, how do you know when you reach the point where, all right, you've worked hard on it, and now you gotta do something, you gotta anneal it or whatever they call that?
I don't anneal it if I don't have to. If it's not so stiff that I can't move it, I don't anneal it. There's no reason to do that unless you're making a new part. There's not going to be any stress imparted to this once it's installed. It's just it's an ornamental piece that's basically sitting on top of a structural piece.
You'd have to hit it a lot and really hard to heat it up enough.
All right, so this thing looks like a bag of marbles exploded underneath it right now. And what I'm going to do is, in the interest of time, I'm gonna cut this pretty quickly with this 220 paper. And what I like to use is a backing for my paper, something along the line of a cereal box works just great. Or, hey, what do you know? This piece of wrap right here just happens to be exactly what I'm looking for. All I want to do is stiffen this up a little bit so my thumb is not creating a groove that's going to disproportionately sand this part down.
So basically, you're doing the same thing that we do when we're doing body work on a lot smaller scale.
Yes.
Instead of taking off the Bondo stuff, you're actually taking off a little bit of
Taking
brass.
off brass.
Okay, well, see, I didn't realize that's what you ended up doing.
And that doesn't stiffen that up a whole lot, but it's just enough so that, again, my bony thumb isn't creating a channel where I don't want it. And all I'm going to do is drag it over this piece, and I'm going to look for my high spots, just like body work. And how smooth you ultimately make this, just like body work, is proportional to how many times you go over it looking for these imperfections. The brass we're kind of limited with because we've only got so much material to work with here. We can't put another coat of Bondo or spot putty on top. So it's do or die.
So working on a curved piece like that's probably a lot easier
It
than working
is.
on a big flat piece.
A flat piece is just murder because you just have to start out so perfect to begin with. Okay, I'm just going to scuff this up a little bit so we can see where our low spots are and approximate how low they are. Because if they're not too bad, I just keep sanding. But I've got some noticeable spots in the center of the part here. Notice that at the center of the cap, little bit too much disturbance there.
Look at that one side, looks pretty good.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it over this this mandrel a little bit. I've got a fairly smooth back side on this, and I can feel those. I can feel that that mandrel right through this metal.
You polish your mandrel?
Only from use.
Well, you know, if you take it and polish it on your polishing wheel,
Could absolutely.
that really helps as far
Even
as
the 220 across it would be a help on this part. This is a very crude Flintstone-like apparatus.
It worked.
But hey, like I said, I'm on brass car number 4 with it, and I don't quit what works.
Yep.
Okay, I feel that
So that's why he.
looks pretty good, feels pretty good.
takes the
I'm gonna go ahead and give it another shot with the paper.
What is like that ends are going around, that was the other one looks like it's really open, because, the doors are closed.
That dude is going down pretty nicely. See a couple of spots that I'm still gonna go back and make a little bit happier. They're nice, but they're just not nice enough. I say this is tough on the hands and the arms. You got arthritis or a carpal tunnel, this is going to kill you. You would think that putting this much pressure and this much time into sanding that you would just be gnawing this stuff away, but literally to go through this piece of brass, you could come back after lunch if I was still doing this. And it's a slow go.
What grid are you using?
220, right? 220. Is that wet dry paper?
It is. It is. I don't wet it for brass just because it's a mess. Any auto body work that I do with it, I always wet it. But, with metal, it's just nasty. And that is coming down pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep going with it because I know I got plenty to work with here. Fortunately, you know, when somebody did work on this before, it doesn't look like they did any grinding on it. Also, very much like body work, rule of the road is stay off the edges. That's the thinnest part of your brass, right? If you've got a bend, and you started out with 20 thousandths, you pull a 90 there, you probably lost 5 thousandths on that bend. Also expect that the metal is stressed, whether it's annealed or not, it's been fatigued. Oh, that's pretty.
Well, I can definitely see why, if you got a lamp that's got a big area or something that's damaged, it's much easier to get another lamp and scrapper and take a piece off and solder it on than to do this.
Absolutely, unless it's, you know, it was grandpa's car, or you got some sentimental attachment. I mentioned to some folks, I got a horn back here that I'm working on, that I would never put the kind of time into it that I did, but it came with that car that's across the street, and I thought, well, you know, it is salvageable, and it's kind of a, you know, can I do this?
Yeah.
And my guess is when I put a shiny black coat on that and a little bit of a 2-part spot putty, it's going to look just absolutely slick. This guy is making this personal on my thumb here. But
Makes your fingers black, too.
yeah.
Get that every time you polish that.
If you got this down in your basement, I got this up against a rock wall in my basement. My wife has fits. It's in her laundry room. There's a streak going up.
Is that going to get into the laundry?
It's fine. It's fine. He's supposed to do that. All right.
I usually take it out front of the garage.
All right. We could work this down quite a bit further, but I'm going to go ahead and put the mega buff on it. And we have a pretty good idea of where we're going with this and what the potential is for the finished part. All right, this rouge is fairly coarse stuff, but is that what you're looking for?
Oh, my goodness.
A lot of difference in there.
So if we have a problem, just send it to you.
I was just gonna say, we'll go eat lunch and let him finish this other guy. Yeah, look at that side.